Joining us now, running hard for Congress, trying to pull the upset of the lifetime, is House of Delegates member Scott Taylor from Virginia Beach. Scott, good to have you, man.
John, always a pleasure. Good to be with you.
All right, Scott, 5 weeks to go. You're in a very, very tough race now to be the 2nd District Republican nominee for Congress for the seat of the retiring Scott Ridgell. 3 candidates in this. Current District 4 Congressman Randy Forbes, who was on our show Friday, who was moved to the 2nd District, and yourself.
Not physically, just switch districts. Didn't
switch
move.
districts, that's correct. Switch districts. And although he does have an apartment he rented in Virginia Beach on the somewhere in there that I heard about. I guess, I don't know. And then also Pat Cardwell, who is a lawyer in Virginia Beach. But look, a new public survey opinion poll just out, showing yourself and Randy Forbes in a virtual dead heat within the margin of error, which is a little bit surprising given his money advantage. Pat Cardwell in 3rd place at 4%. In this poll, what do you make of it?
Well, John, let me first say this race would not even be close at all amongst Republican primary voters if my opponent had not outspent me 10-1 already, and hundreds of thousands of dollars of Washington PAC money included in that. So let me definitely say that it wouldn't even be close. And I think that you said it was a surprise. We've been campaigning now since I guess it was when Ridgell stopped in January, or when he said he's retiring, and it's not a surprise to me because I'm on the streets every day and I talk to everybody and I see what's happening online and I see what's in social media and on his social media, my social media. The feedback that we're getting, our team, which is we got an amazing ground team. From what I hear, I literally hear in the district every single day, and I am not exaggerating. The people are like, they either say carpetbagger or they say he needs to go home. He's a coward. I hear that every day all over the place from different groups. So it's not a surprise to me. But what I will tell you is, and that is a conservative poll for me, because that is Republican primary voters. 80% of the people who took that poll were over the age of 55. So it doesn't even really account for my generation or non-traditional Republican primary voters who just don't vote then, military folks, police, fire folks who don't vote in the primaries but are coming out this time. And furthermore, it is a bad poll for Randy. Obviously, it's horrible because if he can't crush me in that demographic, in that portion, and he's in big trouble. And again, not a surprise to me when we've delivered now over 2,300 yard signs to individual yards, and our people, of course, they deliver all over the district, so they don't see Randy Forbes signs anywhere. So, this race, it's not a surprise to me at all. And my prediction, John, is exactly what's going to happen in my last race. The next thing that's going to happen is you're going to see a ton of ads from a desperate status quo politician who can't even vote for himself is going to attack me. So the chairman of the prayer caucus is about to unleash a ton of attack ads on little old me. That's what's going to happen, but it's not going to help them.
Well, they have a lot of money. There's no question you're going to be outspent. You just look at the most recent financials. You've got $50,000.
But if it was money, then Jeb Bush would be your nominee, and not your prediction, Donald Trump.
Well, that's correct. And you look at how little money. I tell this on the radio all the time because one of the first person I met when I came to Virginia was Virginia Beach Councilman John Moss, and I was covering his Virginia council race, and I looked at the numbers, and I was not from the area. I was from Atlanta, where money rolls, and I looked at his numbers, and I looked at the other guy's numbers, and I'm like, John, just based on this, I don't see how you can possibly win this race. And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, in Virginia, remember, checks vote once. That's
right. And big 4x8 yard signs that you see plastered all over the district by the Forbes campaign, they're not even all votes, right? But 2,300 yard signs are households. So one other thing, let me consider this. Randy's own polls in February, his own polls, said that he was up 20 points on me. He spent $500,000 already. And now you see this poll where it's in the margins just amongst Republican primary voters. So when you hear momentum and you hear that, just consider that.
All right, well,
that's where the momentum is.
Let's look at two factors. By the way, this primary on June 14th, and it is an open primary, which means that you can participate in it if you live in the 2nd District and you are a registered voter. So be sure and get out and vote for the candidate of your choice. Scott, when you look at your recent numbers, which is the Opinion Research poll, it's got Randy at 39%, you at 35%, Pat Cardwell at 4%. But it was your campaign that commissioned the poll. So
Sure.
the Forbes people are saying, it's just, it's biased because those guys paid for it. How do you respond to that?
Well, number one, I have to have honest information, right? And I know what Randy's poll, the 20 points up in February, was skewed because people took the poll and told me about it. Now, I wish that you had asked the question, John, on your show last Friday for Randy's poll. So he could say, oh, it's biased or whatever. But Randy took a poll 2 weeks ago. And before he commissioned the poll, they sent out four mailers, and it was a skewed poll because people called me and told me what the questions were. So they were trying to get a bump in a poll and probably release some poll that says, oh, this race is over or something like that, right? Well, guess what? Have you seen his poll?
No.
Have you heard about it? Did he talk about his poll on your radio show?
No.
Absolutely not. Because it's bad, and it's the same as ours. So the same information as ours. So the notion that ours is skewed is ridiculous because he has his own and he didn't say anything about it.
Okay, let's get to the fact that this poll was a public opinion poll of Republican primary voters, but it's an open primary, right? Anybody can vote. There's nothing going on the Democratic side. So that means independents and potentially Democrats, anybody registered, could participate in the election. What impact will that have?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about any. You're right. It's an open primary, so anybody can participate. I'm not sure if Democrats are participating. I have no idea. But I do know that independents are. I do know that a few people who are not typically Republican primary voters are coming out for us. We've identified thousands and thousands of people who are coming to vote for us. So I'm very confident. I'm very confident. I've won before. I've lost before. I know what it feels like, what the feedback is on the ground with those two types of races. And I can tell you, we're doing a great job. We have a wonderful team. Anything can happen because you're right. He's gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trashing me. But I think we're going to be fine. And, I do want to comment on something because I heard him on the radio show talking about our campaign and me specifically not telling truth and then smoke and mirror. So if I may, I'd like to address both of those.
Sure.
Number
Scott,
one,
go ahead.
I would love to see Randy Forbes tell one thing that I have said out of my mouth about a fact that is not a fact. Because it is a fact that he abandoned his district. It is a fact that he does not live in his district. It is a fact that he's passed one bill in 16 years to rename a post office in Petersburg. It is a fact that he has zero legislation that deals with the stagnant wages and the economy that's going on right now across the country. Those things are facts. The fact, my opinion on why he left the district, if leaving your people behind to save your own butt, that's my opinion. But I don't say anything that's not true and verifiable out of my campaign. The smokes and mirrors things, I think this is important as well, too. I think that Congressman is projecting on me smokes and mirrors. I'm not the one who put this Iran resolution forward 5 months or so after the actual thing happened, just because he's losing in a campaign to make him look tough on Iran and Syrian refugees and stuff like that. That's theater. Theater is passing an authorization with some budget saying you're putting all this money towards ships and building the military, when the fact of the matter is sequestration is the law of the land. So that is theater until you deal with indiscriminate cuts and sequestration that's gutting the military. So smoke and mirrors, that is absolutely smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors, the support that you have in this district, where folks are shoving this person who doesn't live in our district down our throats. Those are smokes and mirrors in terms of support and stuff like that. So there's not smokes and mirrors out of my campaign. There's nothing about my campaign or my life that's been smokes and mirror. When I talk about what I want to do with veteran support and helping those because we haven't kept our promises to veterans, that comes not from smoke and mirrors, but that comes from actually serving in the military that Randy has not done. That comes from going through arguably the world's hardest military program in the world. That comes from kicking doors down in war where evil may be on the other side, or jumping on Humvees where you might not know if you're coming back because of explosive improvised devices. That's not smoke and mirrors. That's fact. That's starting a business on your own, putting your own capital on there in the middle of a recession, getting your butt kicked, but coming back and doing successful. That's not smokes and mirrors. That is legitimate things. So going through an election like we had last time and passing 10 significant pieces of legislation on all the things that I campaigned on. There's nothing smokes and mirrors about that. So I just wanted to address that, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely, Scott. Look, we appreciate the service you gave your country, the risk you put yourself at, and you're right. I mean, as a Navy SEAL, you went through the toughest training out there, and you've been in harm's way. You got a text here from Louise in Virginia Beach who says you're feisty. Also got a text here from Jim in Virginia Beach that wants to ask you a question. He said, did Scott say the prayer caucus sponsored some ads? Can you answer Jim's question?
Number one, thanks for the comment. I am feisty. I like, and that's how I will be for you, fighting for you, shoulder to shoulder. The prayer caucus did not sponsor any ads. I'm sorry if that came across like that. What I said was the chairman of the prayer caucus is about to unleash ads on me to attack me. That's what I said, which is ironic to me. The prayer caucus absolutely did not sponsor any ads against me that I'm aware of.
Okay, we've got another question here, if you don't mind. Text from James,
I love the questions.
From James in Virginia Beach, who says, please ask Scott Taylor if he will submit a declaration of war or letters of marque or reprisals. Randy Forbes continues to refuse to submit a declaration of war. How do you respond to that, Scott?
I've been very clear and very open that Congress has failed, and it's our Republican leadership, to include Congressman Randy Forbes, have failed to step forward and unify the country, whether in declaration of war or authorization of force. Meanwhile, the president's over there and the people are in harm's way. People are dying over there. Obviously, a Navy SEAL just died there as well, too. And all because Congress wants to put the blame on the president, and that's okay to a point. But once people are in harm's way and putting their lives in jeopardy and dying over there, then it's time for our leaders to unify or not. Either the people's representatives say, look, we're going to declare war, we're going to authorize use of force and unify the country over there, or we're not going to do that. And I think that is a failure in leadership of our Congress not to do so, and Congressman Forbes is absolutely a part of that. You are not a witness to what's going on. You are an active participant.
Delegate Taylor, let's get to what's going on right now with Turkey. Our man in the Middle East, Edward Uranian in Cairo, predicted that Turkey is on the verge of a civil war. They're still embroiled in the Syrian situation with the Kurds. And then also, I've only got 3 minutes, also, they want to get Cyprus into NATO because they've got 35,000 troops occupying a third of Cyprus. If Cyprus comes in NATO, then that becomes a NATO exercise. What do you make of the whole thing?
Well, obviously, I wish I had more than 3 minutes, but obviously when you look at Cyprus and you have the Turkish and the Greeks and the islands, it's split, of course, and there's tensions there. There's been tensions there from, when they put their forces there. So I think we should not look at that because then NATO will get drawn into that conflict, and that doesn't make any sense to me. We should not do that. Turkey's got big problems. Turkey's got huge problems and refugees, of course, that are there. They have problems with Islamic extremists. They have problems with the Kurds because they don't want an independent Kurdish region. But at the same time, you have the Kurds in northern Iraq and also in Syria, of course, who are fighting for independence. They're in an autonomously recognized zone in Iraq. There's always tensions there because I think as Americans, we'd like to see the Kurds on their own in Iraq. And quite frankly, I think they basically are. I think that nation state is no more. But Turkey always puts pressure and sort of opposes that because they don't want the Kurds in their own country to have an independent region as well too. I think that your man is right, that Turkey is right for civil unrest and potentially civil war. And you have a prime minister there that is himself pretty extremist. And quite frankly, you have Germany. I think you just saw that Germany is going to prosecute someone who made fun of him. And so folks in the West are basically saying, all right, you don't have freedom of speech against a Turkish prime minister because they're worried about Turkey unleashing migrants into Europe. There's a huge mess there. But I do think, I think that Turkey is poised for civil unrest and potentially civil war. I do agree. And I think NATO needs to not move forward with the Cyprus thing because that'll just get us embroiled into that conflict.
Absolutely. Scott Taylor, if you were in Congress right now, would you be, as things are looking right now, if you were there right now, would you be opposed or in favor of us getting involved in any Turkish internal conflict?
I'm opposed to it. I'm definitely opposed to it. At this point, John, we've talked about this many times. International relations is like
Things
a chess
change,
game, right? So
the
the playing field changes consistently, and when someone moves, everyone moves, and it's So what your answer is today, it might be different from 2 years from now, just like it was in Syria. My answer is different in the beginning 4 years ago as it is now, but right now, absolutely not. I don't think we should be getting involved in that.
All right, we're
to
out of
include
time.
Cyprus.
I want to thank Scott Taylor for being with us. Scott Taylor running for Congress from the 2nd District, U.S. House of Representatives. He's a delegate from Virginia Beach. For more information, you can go to
ScottTaylor.us, ScottTaylor.us. We'd like to see you guys at the polls June 14th. Thank you.
ScottTaylor.us.